trying to turn on my timer so I can begin to practice what we've learned. So hi, everyone. I am excited to be here. I like this kind of spaces, being with people who love themselves. I intentionally dressed like this because, yesterday was Valentine, right? And red is the color. I read about it, and nobody really knows why red was chosen, but why not red? It's bright, it pumps, it reflects the blood. It's the reason why we're moving, right? If there's no blood flowing, then we're not alive in that sense. So yeah, I'm embodying love today. And I'm excited to have all of you here. But before I get started, I want you all to appreciate yourself for loving yourself and bringing yourself here today. Yeah, you can clap, you can applaud yourself. You can choose to clap, you can choose to pat yourself on the back, whatever it is that you need to do to appreciate yourself. I think it's really important. Thank you for appreciating yourself, and thank you for prioritizing yourself to be here today. One thing I want you to know and do is the fact that make sure that you don't leave here the same way that you have come. And that's not a cliche. Make sure that one thing that you have learned, at least one thing you can take away from here today and do differently. So it's not just about 4 hours. You could as well be on your bed, but you chose to be here. So let's do something different. If it's just one thing, it doesn't have to be 10. Just one thing. Do it differently. I'm talking about problem solving today. All that I've said before now was just part of me being a people person, a people builder. I love to leave people and places better than I met them, and that's why I'm here today. We're talking about solutions. I'm going to start with a story. About 10 years ago, or before then, I used to be a consultant. I started my career in IT, and then I got into consulting, precisely SAP consulting. So I would implement SAP human resource in multinationals, in local conglomerates, and it was really exciting. That's where I learned about HR. And then I was working with HR leaderships and business leaders. Then the interest began. And I was like, okay, why not HR? Because it became very demanding. I had to travel here and there. I was just building the family. These children you see now were babies. And I had to make a decision. Do I keep jumping around or do I settle? So I chose HR. But then I had my career in consulting. I had my experience in consulting. So I started to transition. The transition journey began, and I eventually got a job after like 2 years of trying to transition. And I was excited. I was pumped. I remember I was once a consultant. So I got into that space. I had expectations of what it should be like in terms of structure, in terms of ways of working, in terms of processes, in terms of behavior, and all of that. But alas, it didn't turn out that way. So the consultant in me started to list out things, how things should be done differently. I had my long lists. I was very enthusiastic about it. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go meet the head of HR and say, you know what? This is what I think. And I did it all by myself. I didn't ask questions. I didn't do anything. So I wrote the lists, and I went to his office that day, and I knocked, and he said, you know what, come in. So I sat. I was still pumped up and excited. And I said, you know what, good morning. I've been here for some weeks, and I have a few ideas. I noticed a number of things, and I think this and this and this and this and this. By the time I got midway, I already realized that something wasn't right. I'd missed it. At that point, I felt like the ground would swallow me. You know that feeling when you know that, you know what, gosh, I shouldn't have done this. His countenance had changed, like literally. He was just blank looking at me, no smiles, and like, you know what, let's talk about it later. You can go now. So I stood up, summoned the courage, and then I left. And then I did what I should have done. I spoke to a colleague who was sitting right beside me. And I said, you know what, I went to Mr. So-so-so's office, and this is what I did. He was like, what? Why would you do such a thing? I'm like, yeah, but it was just in the process of trying to solve a problem or consult or just do something differently. I noticed a number of things that were not working, and I thought this would be the good idea. But you know what? That cost me a lot. For about 8 months, because he was the director of HR, for about 8 months, he would call for meetings and ask me to step back. Just me. And everybody else would go into his office. They would have the meetings, and they would come out. And I was just there. Sorry, I think I need to use this. Oh, okay. Sorry. I need to get used to these things, huh? Please help me. I think I'm... Yes, to the second slide. Thank you. I appreciate. So he wouldn't invite me to those meetings. For about 8 months, I kept counting. But being the believer that I was, I started to ask God for mercy because I knew that I was wrong. I approached it the wrong way, even though my intentions were kind of right. But I didn't go the right way. And that's problem solving. One thing I learned from that experience while reflecting was the fact that while I had the right mindset, I had a growth mindset. I had a solution-oriented mindset. I had a to-do mindset, but I lacked the guiding principles to solve the problem. So in essence, problem solving is beyond having the right mindset. It's also being able to understand what guides that mindset, the mindset or the skills that enables that mindset to thrive so that we can, at the end of the day, solve the problem. Because, wrapping up that, after the 8 months, he kind of had mercy on me. And then, one day, he just sent me a text, late in the night, like midnight. I think there was work the next day, and he was like, how do you think we can handle this? We have some issues with our handbook and a number of things. What do you think? And I was like, God, this is a miracle. He even has my number. I didn't even realize he had my number. And the next day, he called me to his office. I was asking me a number of questions. And it was like, you know what? I love this idea. I'm going to send you on a training. And he sent me on an expense training with business leaders just to go gather the insights. And I came back and was working on a project. And that turned around. But sometimes it never gets to turn around. So then we can be proactive to do things differently and avoid those kind of issues. But every day, we experience problems. It doesn't necessarily have to be in career. As a parent, every day, you have to settle issues, you have to do this and that, even in marriage, even in the church, we experience problems. But I just highlighted a few. I'm sure you're wondering, why is this a problem? This is, you can call it picanha or steak, whatever name you give to it. But it came about someone trying to bring out or design principles that could last. So if you go to a restaurant and you taste a picanha that is really bad, then it's a problem. But someone thought to create a solution and designed a way to make it. And I think the Brazilians have it. I'm sorry, Portuguese, but I think the Brazilians have it with this kind of things. Right? If you eat the Brazilian ones, it just tastes nicer. That's my personal experience. But that was a problem solved. If you follow the process, then you get the right results. But you cannot go to the market and say, you know what, they said picanha is made with beef. I'm solution-oriented, so I get the beef. And then I put it on the fire and I just do something. It will be a mess. There's a process that it has to follow. Likewise, this could be the workplace. This could be a church. This could be anything. It could be a project that you're managing. There are guidelines. There are principles. And this guy right here may just be me or you, or the handyman you call to fix your pumping machine. Anyone had that experience where you have to keep calling the guy again and again? He came the last time, he fixed it, but it worked for 2 days, and then it broke again. I can see someone nodding there. It just broke again because the principle, something is missing somewhere. When we're solving problems, we have to have the right mindset and the skills that enable that mindset to thrive so that we can solve the problem and make it lasting. So this takes us to how? What are those principles? What are the frameworks that enables us to not just solve the problem, but make sure that we consider posterity in the process? And this, of course, are the steps that take us up there. If you're in Portugal, the steps will be your best friend. One way or the other, you must have experienced it. First, we need to understand, what is the problem about? That's where I missed it. I didn't fully understand. I knew the problem, but I didn't understand why it existed. There were cultural undertones. There were many things that were happening there that I didn't quite get. I didn't take the time to analyze. I wasn't curious enough to ask questions. I didn't see the big picture. I didn't understand the leadership styles or the kind of personality that that person was. I just went, knocked, and went in, thinking, okay, yeah, there's a director, he would listen and let's work things out. From a consultant mindset, not a staff. If I was a consultant, of course he would have listened to me. He's paying me for the work I'm doing. But now, I report to him. So there are different narratives, and I need to understand where I'm coming from so that I can align. And then, I didn't figure out the root cause. There were many things that were happening in that space that I needed to understand. And there's some workplaces that are meant for us, some are not. I've had to resign for some workplaces because it just wouldn't work. My values don't align with yours. We need to part ways. Some, I need to decide, okay, yeah, the values may not be so, but I can still work without compromising who I am. I didn't figure out the root cause. I didn't take the time. But for every problem that we solve, we need to be able to figure out why. How did it come about in the first place? Before I jump into solution mode, what happened? And then brainstorm the possible solutions. After I've asked around, I've taken different steps, then I sit down and think about it. What exactly are the options to solve this problem? How can I go about it? What is the best for this particular issue? Then I consider and streamline my solution. That way, then it's coming to life. After that, I can then execute because I've been able to get a viable solution and I've gone through the framework that makes sense. Yeah? But it doesn't end here. Most of the time, we end it here. Okay, I've solved the problem. It's all good. No, it's not all good. Because if I solve a problem that is a major problem, then I need to be able to document it and think posterity. So yeah, I didn't just solve a problem, I'm noting it down. Because sometimes you realize, it happens to me, I don't know if it happens to you, there's something, maybe, and my husband can attest, sometimes he's asking me, oh, Jerry, how do you do this on PowerPoint? And I'm like, I need to see it because I can't remember how I did it last time. So while I'm trying to do it the next time, I'm even spending more time than the first time I did it because I didn't document how I went about it. So documentation is key in problem solving because we think posterity, we think business continuity. Sorry, I haven't put that in. There we go again. Okay. Goodness me. Renee, please help me. Something is going on with this. I need to get the guiding principles. I need to get the standard operational procedure for this. Yeah? There's another line before that. I'm not sure why it's not coming up. Something is missing somewhere. But anyway, that's fine. So we document the process because we need to think posterity. We need to think the future. I would like to share a perfect example of who I think is the greatest problem solver ever. And that is God. At the beginning of time, he designed the world. There was a Garden of Eden. I'm sure you all know that story. At some point or the other, you've heard that. He designed the world, but somehow the devil decided to truncate some of these things out of his own greed and what he wanted to achieve. But God did not allow that deter his moves. He decided to understand, he understood, I want to assume that he understood the process, he understood what happened, he analyzed the situation, and then he was like, you know what, this guy must have thought that, okay, this is what he would do, but I have another plan. So he weighed the options, and he streamlined the option. The best option was for Jesus to come and die, even though that was not the greatest for him, because his son would have to die and go through pain. But he did. But then, he didn't end there, because when Jesus died and rose, that was perfect. The problem was solved, right? But then we have the Bible today because that solution was all documented and we can experience it today. You want to know how to love, you can go back to that documentation. Someone went through the process to document the solution. Right. So whenever you're solving a problem next, think about that. It's not just about solving. Think God. If God could do that, why would I not? So if I'm solving a problem next time, I need to document it for posterity. Now we can refer to the Bible. I wake up every day and, they will tell us, read your Bible, pray every day, because that's how we are able to understand what was in God's mind when he was solving the problem and how he went about it and how we can live our lives according to his will as children of God. So even in the workplace, we document. We have what we call the standard operational procedures. We have what we call the policies, what we call the handbooks, so that people coming afterwards can refer to it and we make their lives easier. Right. So my time is up and my timer is just telling me that. But I wanted to just close out with this. Problem solving is a mindset. So irrespective of whatever problem it is, because some will come overwhelming, some will cut easy, it's up to us to know that we've got this. It's up to us to know, even as people of faith, that there's a spirit in us. There's an inspiration of the Almighty that makes us intelligent, and nothing is beyond us. So we need to always remember that. No matter how big, no matter how small, at the workplace, in the family, in the church, wherever it is we find ourselves, we've got this, and no problem is beyond us. We just need to understand there's a framework, there's a mindset, there's a principle, and we are here. We are here for this. It's not beyond us. Thank you.
Any questions? Oh, we have one over there.
Thank you. I have a question, please. Please, how can a first-time mom effectively balance challenges and launching a career to achieve monetary satisfaction?
Okay, that's a good one. Thank you.
Speaking.
Yeah.
It's working.
It's working.
Okay, you said a first-time mom. Okay, I think I get you. I think it starts from you, first of all, getting your headspace in the right place and knowing that you can do this, that nothing is beyond you. Challenges would come and they would go. But how they leave us, how we respond to it is what makes the difference. Who we become with that process is what makes the difference. So being a first-time mom, yes, the baby came to you because you can handle that baby. But then you also need to make money. I remember at some point, I could just make a reference. I was without a job when I was pregnant with my first child because I'd resigned. Remember I mentioned I resigned in a place because the value wasn't aligned. So, but I was so excited that I would get another job, but it didn't come. I was pregnant. My husband also lost his job at that point in time. So both of us became jobless. And I was pregnant with our first child. So it sounded kind of similar. We had financial issues. We didn't know how it would come in place. But one thing we knew was that we had a God that would stay through for us. So I think it's from that place of, first not losing faith, having a support system, and continuing to build. Build your skill sets. Lucas mentioned, build that skill set that would work for you, and remind yourself that you are not, you're not the problem. There's nothing wrong with you. Whatever it is will work for your good. That's what the Bible says. So build the skill sets that you need to thrive. Don't stop applying. Build your confidence. Connect yourself with the right people that would help you build and become that person that you really want to become. And believe in yourself. Pour out into your baby. Build your confidence. But make sure that you're well connected. You have a support system that would enable you to thrive. I think that's the major thing. And of course, a connection with God. Then every other thing will fall into place. Sometimes it's just a wisdom problem. It's just one wisdom away, like I was discussing with someone earlier. But it's one step at a time. But it starts with you not losing the essence of who you are, I think.
Thank you so much, Tolu. A round of applause.